called Words of Eternal Life. It can be purchased at the United States Spiritist Federation, and maybe some other places as well. So anyway, I took a chapter, named it chapter 2, from this particular book. And so what we're going to do is I will ask someone to read it, and then we'll take it step by step, trying to remind ourselves of what's important in our lives. So let's see. So the chapter is entitled, Let Us Grow for the Good. And it starts with a quote by Jesus in John 3:34. And then we will be, and the rest is the chapter. So who would be available to read?
I can do this.
Thank you, Mark.
For the one whom God has sent speaks the words of God, for God gives the Spirit without limit. John 3:34. Observe the generosity of divine grants everywhere. While man rations the distribution of this or that, while man rations the distribution of this or that resource, God's laws are of abundance. Notice the earth around you, the magnificent sun in all directions, the pure and unmeasured air, the source given without restrictions, all infinitely given to everyone, all liberally shared. What happens to the Lord's concessions in the material order occurs in the kingdom of the Spirit, too. The doors of wisdom and love lie open, always. The treasures of science, the joys of human understanding, the glories of art, and the lights of inner sublimation are accessible to all creatures. However, from the river of graces of life, each soul only draws the portion of riches that it can understand and use profitably. Study, observe, work, and renew yourself for the good. Expand your vision and help others by helping yourself. Remember that God does not give his gifts to anyone by measure. Yet, each soul brings along the value it has instilled within itself to receive God's gift.
Thank you, Mark. So in short, it's a lesson of abundance, right? So let's look at that. So the first part is the explanation of John 3:34, what Jesus said. What does this actually mean? For the one whom God has sent speaks the words of God, for he gives the Spirit without limit. Jesus, as we know, is the Messiah sent by God, and his teachings are the exact words of God. Unlike ancient prophets who were given the Holy Spirit in limited amounts for specific tasks, Jesus, on the other hand, possesses the Holy Spirit in his absolute fullness. So what will be some of the examples of the ancient prophets who were given the Holy Spirit in limited amounts? Most of them refer to the Old Testament. There was King Saul, there was Gideon, there was Samson, and Balaam. They were given for certain occasions, like for waging a war or, for special occasion or purpose, they were given the word of God. That's not what happened with Jesus. Everything he said is an exact copy. That's why we call Jesus our guide and model. Jesus' words are 100% true and carry God's absolute authority, as the Father and Son are in perfect alignment. The Spirit without limit, when we look up there, for he gives the Spirit without limit. God did not withhold any part of the Spirit from Christ. Everything Jesus said and did was empowered by the limitless presence of the Spirit. So in short, the verse highlights Jesus as the ultimate infallible messenger of God, of God's truth to humanity, and the limitless generosity of the divine. So our minds may say, okay, I know, next please, but let us really let that sink in. Absolute generosity, everything was shared, no secret. And this man who had all the wisdom, everything that there was, came to earth to teach us. So maybe we can take a breath into this because it impacts us. So let us move on. The next section of the chapter, Emmanuel points out the immense generosity of the divine that we're constantly and always have been the receivers of. He highlights our scarcity and stinginess, despite the generosity that we receive. He gives us examples of this generosity in nature. And Emmanuel explains that the generosity of the divine, namely in the spirit world, is reflected in nature, namely matter. So let's see how he does that. He says, observe the generosity of divine grants everywhere. There's a lot of spiritual lineages that ask us to meditate on nature, to just sit in front of a rose or even just a blade of grass under a tree, to really feel, because one thing is we get it up here, but we know we have to feel the lessons, to really feel this abundance of nature. I think in the fall, we may all feel it. If we only have one apple tree, we're drowning in apples and we're just begging our neighbors to take apples. That's like just one tiny example of natural generosity. While man rations the distribution of this or that resource, God does not alter his laws of abundance. So God is gushing, the universe is gushing, the divine is gushing towards us. And what do? Most of it, we hold on to it. We don't even realize it. And what we give is like little crumbs at most. We're not actually mirroring the abundance that we receive. Notice the earth around us, around you, says Emmanuel, the magnificent sun in all directions, right? The sun shines no matter what on anyone indiscriminately. There is no judgment. The pure and unmeasured air, well, the ones who have tempered with the air is us, but the actual source is pure. The source given without restrictions. All infinitely given to everyone, all liberally shared, Emmanuel reports. And we know that. We're all equal before God. We're all God's children, and we're all being treated equally. However, pure and absolute equality does not exist on earth, as Emmanuel repeats teaching us in the book, The Consoler. Why? Because we do different things with what we receive. So of course we're not equal, and plus we find ourselves at different levels in our evolution and our evolutionary course. What happens to the Lord's concessions in the material order occurs in the kingdom of the spirit too. So when we see the sun, when we see the trees, when we breathe the air and it's all being given nonstop and forever, same happens in the spirit, in the spiritual world. So when we go over to the Consoler, question 333, the answer we learn, The sacred chance, and this is another example of abundance and forgiveness and love. The sacred chance of undergoing a new incarnation granted to us by God is in itself forgiveness or the magnanimity of his law, and his law is love. It is abundance, it's love, it's forgiveness that we're allowed to keep coming back in different worlds, not just on planet Earth. And it's really, I hope we can let that sink in. And the idea is to let that sink in and to transmute it and give it. Because we all know the saying and we recite it all the time, by giving, we receive. I mean, while I was putting this together, I was really struck by our scarcity all over the board, right? And yet we're like continuously receive every minute, every second of each day for millennia. So let us go over to Gospel chapter 26, where we learn from Matthew, we learn that freely you have received, freely give. Right? Freely we have received, freely give. By this precept, he prescribes that one should not charge for something that one has not paid for. And we do it all the time, right? Mediumship is one example, but there's many more. We charge for the gifts we have received. It's the gift of healing, paid prayers. The merchants were expelled from the temple, which expressed the condemnation of selling holy things. God neither sells divine blessings, nor forgiveness, nor entry into the divine kingdom. It's all free and available to us. But we turn around. So one question for us is to scan our lives where we do that. Mediumship is free of charge as a result, because it's a spirit that gives us the message. It's not our message. The spirit doesn't charge, so how can we charge? Let us go to the next part. Now, Emmanuel gives us examples of God's generosity to all of us. He says, wisdom and love, science, human understanding, the arts, and the opportunity for inner sublimation, which is our spiritualization. Are we nourishing our souls? So the next sentence is that in the chapter is the doors of wisdom and love lie open always. So now, after giving us examples of nature, he gives us the examples that come from the spirit. The doors of wisdom and love lie open always to all of us, nonstop. Now, we know the beautiful love and wisdom are the two wings that help us ascend to God. Right, Regina? You have it behind you, the butterfly. So one of the wings is called love, and the other one is called wisdom or knowledge. And Emmanuel in Thought and Life, chapter 4, which is entitled Instruction, further on says, through love, which is above all service to our fellow beings, we are illuminated and made beautiful within. So we are emitting a reflex of our own virtues that can benefit others. We keep giving, and we're supposed to let it flow through rather than hold it. If we, for example, imagine a river, right? If a river gets stopped up into like a small lake often breeds disease. The water becomes fetid, stinky, or a puddle. So that's what happens inside of us. If we don't let the gifts flow through, we tend to become sick, body, mind, and spirit. So we need to have that flow in our lives through our body, mind, and spirit. Through wisdom, which is the other wing, we can also call it knowledge, which begins with the acquisition of knowledge. We gather influences from those who have gone before us towards progress. We learn, we study. They're sending us the reflection of their own greatness, thereby impelling us towards heaven. That's why we always study in Spiritism. And then we apply it. Through love, we're better able to undertake life. Through wisdom, life increases in value. Hence the imperative need for intelligence and goodness, for love and wisdom to go hand in hand. We study, we acquire knowledge, and then we practice what we have learned. That's feeling the message. So when Emmanuel says in this chapter, the doors of wisdom and love lie open always, we know what he means by that. And it's our choice whether we make use of it, and we come to that. The next sentence in this chapter says, the treasures of science, the joys of human understanding, the glories of art, and the lights of inner sublimation are accessible to all creatures. Let's look at some of them. Again, let's go to Thought and Life by Emmanuel, chapter 10, understanding. He says we need understanding as a foundation for the task of our renewal. An understanding that symbolizes dynamic brotherhood. If I don't understand X, Y, and Z, another person, I feel a disconnect. I'm not in this brotherhood of love. There is no flow between us because I go like this, right? What's going on? So we need to dialogue. We need to lean in. We need to try to understand our brothers and sisters, groups, including spiritual messages. And that's where we become fraternal. That's where love can flow. Only tireless, he says, tireless dedication, that's a lot, to understanding can guarantee us the necessary balance in the task of our self-improvement. We must make it our most cherished dream. Can you believe it? We must make it our most cherished dream for only to practice understanding. For only love, pure and true, can create in our minds the energy of divine light as it radiates from us into waves of constant renewal. So what he's saying is if we don't practice understanding, how can we receive God's gifts? And we kind of looked into them and know how abundant they are and pass them on. When we just one thing, we don't practice understanding, boom, there's the block. Because now I have a million enemies in my life. People that I'm cutting myself off from because I don't understand them, just as one example. And I don't bother leaning in and trying to practice understanding. So understanding is key, really key. And he says, tireless dedication has to make it our most cherished dream. Therapeutic question, where are we at in our practice of understanding? The picture on the left is an interesting one because this girl is hanging there on the precipice and wants to be saved by, let's say, her boyfriend or a man. And she's thinking to herself, like, what the heck? Why isn't he pulling me out quicker? Why isn't he pulling me up, right? Getting all frustrated with him because she knows she has a snake about to bite her or biting her already. And the guy who is lying under a rock is like, why isn't she helping me? Why isn't she doing more to help me pull her up? Typical disconnect, right? Isn't that what's happening constantly in our days? And it's also with people and groups and situations we don't actually know in person. But boy, we have judgments, right? But we're not pausing and saying, hey, do I actually know what's going on with X, Y, and Z? So this is why I brought this. I thought that kind of gives us a visual of this lack of understanding. So that this is still the same sentence, the treasures of science, the joys of human understanding, we just looked at that, the glories of art and the lights of inner sublimation are accessible to all creatures. So here, let's look at the glories of art. They're also available to all of us, gushing from the divine. Let's go to the book Spiritism in the Arts by Leon Denis, chapter 1. And right there he says, beauty is one of the divine attributes. God has put in all beings and things this mysterious charm which attracts us, seduces us, captivates us, and fills our souls with admiration, sometimes with enthusiasm. We know beauty and art are linked, are the same. Beauty is an expression of art. So it's available to all of us. It's actually built into the fabric of the universe. Art, he says, is the search, the study, the manifestation of that eternal beauty of which we perceive only a reflection here below on planet Earth. To me, it's linked to the first part of the definition of moral charity, which is benevolence. It's like seeing the good in everything and all, benevolence, but it's also seeing the beauty, even in things that may at first sight appear ugly or unacceptable. But that's then when the understanding kicks in, right? It's like looking deeper, really breathing it in, really seeing what's the good, what's the beautiful in this at first sight ugliness. It's really requires for us to be more mindful, more present, to slowing down. And if we can't in the moment, doesn't always happen, things move quickly, to at least have that literally available in us to give it the benefit of the doubt at least, and not to jump to harsh judgments. So the glories of art are abundantly available to us through the expression of beauty. So this was giving us of what we're receiving. Now, what do we do with it? And Emmanuel points out our limitations. He says, however, from the river of graces of life, each soul only draws the portion of riches that it can understand and make use of profitably. So the universe, God, the divine is gushing. What do we do with it? We can only draw the portion of riches that we can understand and make use of profitably. That's lies in our inner transformation, in our soul developmental stage. Here's the word understanding again, and it points out another facet of the importance of understanding, because even the gifts we need to understand. So we're going back to Thought and Life by the Spirit, Emmanuel, chapter 1. And there we learn the mind. So we're trying to understand where this limitation comes from and how we can work with it. Because obviously our goal is to bust it, to be more open, right? So here Emmanuel explains that the mind stands as the mirror of life in all places. So it's our mind that reflects everything. It's just a reflection. That's why all of us experience something that we all observe the same differently, because our mirror, our mental mirror is different. In defining the mind as the mirror of life, we recognize the heart as the reflection and the brain as the center of its undulations. What is undulations? So the center of its continuous wave-like motions or flowing up and down shapes. So the mind is constantly moving. We know that thoughts are coming in, going out, right? It's nonstop. Sometimes we can't fall asleep because the mind is still going, right? So he says that in defining the mind as the mirror of life, we recognize the heart as the reflection and the brain as the center of these undulations, generating the force of thought that can move, create, transform, destroy, and rebuild in order to achieve refinement and sublimation. We're powerful beings. The mind is very strong, and we need to learn to work with it. It's like a mind that's not educated via the will, Emmanuel teaches us, but I don't want to get too complicated, is like a wild horse and can be very destructive. But it stands as the mirror of life, and the heart is the reflection. Mental reflexes set the stage for the creation of emotions. Whatever we think, if I have a judgment, my heart closes, right? All of a sudden, I become all rigid. But if I'm in love, oh my gosh, the whole world looks more rosy, right? Okay, I'm sure we've all been there at some point. We're in love with everything and everyone all of a sudden, So this is how, like, because we like that person, what we see. Emotionalism creates ideas, right? It's like ping pong. Ideas determine attitudes and words that command our actions. No one can transcend the resources of their own mind beyond the level of progress they have already attained by mere improvisation. In other words, we're caught in our own web of inner transformation, soul development, where we're at essentially. We can't transcend it, but we can work on it. That's why we learn through Emmanuel and Spiritism and many other spirits of how we can open up, see more the good, right? There's no salvation without charity. That's one of the key levels. Benevolence, seeing the beauty, understanding, practicing understanding, being indulgent with our brothers and sisters, and forgiving it all, forgiving everyone, always. So when we go back here, however, from the river of graces of life, each soul only draws the portion of riches that it can understand and make use of profitably. Now we understand it better, right? Emmanuel says no one can transcend the resources of their own mind beyond the level of progress they have already attained. We can't make it up. We can't improvise. So what do we want to do? We want to boost our knowledge, the two wings. We want to educate our mind. We want to open it up, understand more the bigger picture that one path is Spiritism offers to us, and then putting it into motion, into action. That way, we are more open to the gifts and we're realizing, recognizing, and feeling them and understanding them and seeing them better in our own lives. Because the fact is, it keeps gushing. As we're sitting here, it's gushing. But how much are we getting it and taking it in? Depends on us, on our inner work. So now Emmanuel shifts to our practical advice, the recipe for success. So how can we go about this? We know that God is gushing. We know we are stingy. Why are we stingy? Because we're not really receiving the gifts. We're not really understanding them. We're not putting them out. And that's our limitation. And now he helps us further to shift. He says, study, observe, work, and renew yourself for the good. So studying, and we know it's the wing of knowledge, observing. Remember when we said, let's observe, let's just meditate on the sun, meditate on a fruit tree, right? To get the abundance, to feel the abundance that we're surrounded with, to work, to fulfill our duties, to be charitable. Charity begins when duty ends. Once we've fulfilled our duty, that's only when charity begins. And let us renew ourselves for the good, practice it all, the wing of love. And we go back to Thought in Life, chapter 10, and there Emmanuel tells us and this is really, I hope everyone is listening, because this sentence is really amazing. To undo the handcuffs of evil we have forged against our souls. We must seek goodness. We must feel goodness. We must visualize goodness and mold it with all the resources we can muster. We have created these handcuffs of evil for millennia. And how can we bust them? How can we be open to all of what God is offering in order to receive it, make it our own? We need to seek goodness. We need to want it. We need to feel it. We can observe nature, we can meditate, we can practice spiritism, we can help the poor, we can, we know. Starts with our thinking, to seek goodness, to feel goodness, and to visualize it, to see it. So this is our totality, really. This sentence summarizes our life path, according to Emmanuel. Then Emmanuel in this particular chapter says further, it's another advice, expand your vision and help others by helping yourself. So this is another guideline he gives us in order to receive the gifts, the abundance more, and pass it out. Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 5. Pivotal chapter where we learn without charity, there's no salvation. Now, these are all not new words, just trying to put them in a different perspective, maybe. So without charity, there is no salvation. We need to expand our vision, help others by helping ourselves. Charity. Charity is based on a universal principle and gives all God's children access to supreme happiness. Again, we all have the same opportunities. It teaches us charity is consecrated to the principle of equality before God. Charity brings us together because we can all be charitable. But if it says without the Catholic Church, there's no salvation, now we're segregated. So by charity, we practice fraternity, brotherhood, we come together. All men and women are brothers and sisters. We're all children of God. Unity. It's unifying. And we're being treated charitably nonstop, so why not pass it forward? Submit all your actions. Apostle Paul in Paris in 1860 says, submit all your actions to the test of charity, and your conscience will respond to you. Now, charity is primarily mind. It starts with the mind. Right? All of our thoughts, need to check them. For it is in giving that we receive, said Saint Francis of Assisi. So we help others by helping ourselves. Then we go to the Consoler, question 351, which gives us an interesting twist to helping others by helping ourselves. Turns it a little bit around. By helping ourselves, we're helping others as well. I hope you can follow. It's both ways, right? So here's Emmanuel in the Consoler giving us this idea how we can help ourselves. And he says, how should we understand the evangelical concept of love for ourselves according to the gospel, right? So when I need self-care, I need to take care of myself. Well, we go to a nail salon, we go shopping, go on a vacation. Well, that's all has maybe its place, but he's talking about something very different. This is really the most important self-love. He says, self-love must be translated into self-effort, self-education, observance of duty, compliance with the law of work, perseverance in the faith, and the sincere desire to learn from the only master, who is Jesus Christ. Remember, the chapter started off that only Jesus got all of what God has to give. His words are 100% correct. It is not, so self-love is not the promotion of self-adoration. Self-love is not the promotion of self-adoration. There's no place for pride or selfishness in that. Those who enlighten themselves fulfill the mission of light on earth. We become the light that we don't want to hide under a bushel. Through our self-love, our following exactly what he listed here. I mean, you may want to take a screenshot of this and like really, okay, so how am I doing in self-effort, self-education, observance of duty, compliance with the law of work, perseverance in my faith, that is in my sincere desire to learn from the only master and putting it into practice. Then he says, we need to embrace this paradigm of self-love by being fully aware that all the good we do for our neighbor is good that we do for our own souls. So by us loving ourselves in this form, we're contributing to our neighbors. And then we may also help them build a house, put on the roof on them. By giving, we will also receive. It's all a circle. It all goes around. It's all linked. It's beautiful. It's the dance of life. But the one thing we must not do is be stingy and block it. Not work on ourselves, not receive the gifts. And by working on ourselves, all of this, what he's the self-love that he's listing, is available to us nonstop. We have the opportunities, which is so beautiful, right? They never stop. So now we're to summary. In the chapter, Emmanuel says now, in summary, remember that God does not give his gifts to anyone by measure, absolute abundance. Yet each soul brings along the value it has installed within itself to receive God's gifts. Remember the Grimm's fairy tale, The Star Child? You probably don't. I was raised German. I was raised on the Grimm's fairy tales, and my most favorite was The Star Child. I always wanted my grandma to tell me that. So it's in short, a little girl who is walking through, along, and there's all these people who need stuff. And she gives everything. She gives her shirt, her jacket, her shirt, everything. In the end, she's standing there. It's not being said that way, but essentially buck naked. She has given it all away. And at that very moment, she's totally out of her bread to her food, everything. There's nothing left. And at that moment, the sky opens up and all these stars, they're like gold coins, essentially, come falling from the sky, and a dress. That's why she's wearing it. And what does she do? She opens it up and receives it. See, that's the thing. We give, and there it comes, the abundance, but we have to be ready to receive it. That's another thing, right? When we ask for help, we need to also receive it. We need to be open to it. And I always thought that was so wonderful. I felt so desperate when she didn't have anything, and there, boom, it all came down. So that's us, really. The little girl is us. And so in closing, I want to say, I want to give you one more quote, and we find that in the Consoler, question 351. The truth is that there is only one law, the law of love, and only one bestower of blessings, and that is God, which is really saying everything that this chapter started off with. And it is Emmanuel who says that in the Consoler, because the book was written by him. But I want to say one more thing. The law of love, there's only one law, right? We always study the divine laws in the spirit book and other spiritist literature, but it all comes together in the law of love. That's really the one law, and it comes from God. And when we look at the Spirit's book, chapter 11, which we did in our Divine Light Spiritist, in our Divine Light study group, we went back to the Spirit's book and looked at it to learn, to remind ourselves, what is the law of love actually in the gist, summarized. There's 4 items, and I just want to give them to you because there's only one law, the law of love. So we can take that into our next week, into the rest of our lives. We learn under the law of love, there is no salvation without charity. What does charity, how is charity, the moral charity defined? How is it defined? That's really something we should know. I'm sorry, I shouldn't should you. It's really something we might want to really remember, because when we remember it, we can practice it, right? So the moral charity is defined as benevolence towards all, seeing the good in everyone and everything. It is indulgence with our brothers and sisters' imperfections. And it is forgiveness towards everything and all, including ourselves. So that's number 2. Then, under the law of love, we're reminded of the golden rule. Only treat others the way we want to be treated. And what is the whole law in summary that Jesus tells us, gives us? What's the law in summary, law of love in summary? Woohoo, love one another. That's it, he says, that's it. Anyway, so here we go. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to stop sharing.
Excellent, Sunshine. Thank you so much. Yeah, your amazing presentation. I really appreciate that. And we open up the floor for anybody that wants to make a comment, a question. Just unmute yourself and speak up.
Well, my dear friend, I am back at that picture you had with that rock on top of that man's back. I'm like, whoa. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're trying to say because we never know what is going on in another person's life. And it's kind of got a double edge to this picture because for one, you don't judge. That's the most important thing. Don't judge where a person is, even from our president down to his workers. You don't judge because we have no idea the intensity or the reason or what the plan is to change one's perspective or the world. It's huge. It's always bigger than ourselves. And but that picture, boy, I'm telling you, I'm like, if you're the one hanging on to a string, in my mind, I'm going to be calling on God to help me more than this human being here, to give this human being strength to help me, pull myself up as well. You know what I'm saying? I got to have some help. And in prayer and in studying, you receive, just like the story you just told about the Star Girl. It's like that. So yeah, that's a very strong picture there. I'm telling you, it's like that. Let me wake your mind up.
Yeah, it gives a good visual, right? And it's so true. We just don't know the stresses and strains and pains and anyone is exposed to, right? But we project our own state onto them and then start judging. And yeah, thanks for putting that.
Yeah, and benevolence.
Yeah.
That's a big word too. I love that word, benevolence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
key, really.
yeah, indulging and respecting others and being mindful of others. It's the same thing with that picture. You just and all in everything we do, in every aspect of our lives, we're constantly being reminded to be, I wanted to use another word, but there's no other, like you were saying. It's just be loving, be caring, be thoughtful.
Yeah.
First, and if you add your complaints and all that other stuff first, later, at least you're supposed to be loving and thoughtful first. Anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, thanks, Gina. Perfect. Yeah.
Dave, do you want to say anything while the mic is open? Anyway, he might come around. Who knows?
It's great. I like it. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunshine. You gave us the information in short time, and that was everything in that. When you say that his teaching, Jesus' teaching, was the word of God, I remember the time that we had the sentence, Jesus said, God is light. I am light. You are light. And it means we have the capacity, the ability to be the same. We and you explained that, you taught us, that is, we need to have a study and observe, work and renew ourselves. Good. And that is here when what we study. Yes, that is everything that we study. That is the what the other people have experienced and has written, and we read it. So like that we cannot vision that. We cannot experience that. Is not ours. We have nothing, and when we don't have anything, we can give it to somebody else. That is the most important thing, that we get something for us, and that is comes with observation, that we can experience something. We can practice that. To practice, that will come. And the most important is what you said, the love of God is love. And we learn how to love. That is the most important step, that we go through the spiritual grounds. Because you said again, sun and the other things that what God gives. That remember that God doesn't only give the gift by measure, and so is that. I have many times observed when the rain is coming, doesn't ask that is church, that is temple, that is mosque, that is uh, somewhere they learn from somebody is atheist, nothing comes everywhere. And so should be the love. We should love everybody without to think about anything else. The race or about the age, about the religion, about anything else. At any rate, I have learned, even I wish to understand each single word that I couldn't. Still, I have learned a lot. And thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohsen. Yes.
Thank you, Sunshine. All I can say right now is love, 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 love. Thank you.
Love more, not less, right?
Sister, the one thing that comes to me is the importance of awareness, like the self-awareness and as you said, like if it's almost human nature to just project on the other what we are feeling, right? And then just jump into the understanding. So I keep thinking, like, what prevents us from understand the other? Like, what stop us there? And I think, I don't know, I will reflect on that along the week, but I think one of the things are like this awareness. When we are so focused on us, we are not aware. Even if we are focusing on ourselves, we're not aware of what's going on. We are just like narrowing the view to what we are feeling, to the point that do not allow us to be in, to exercise the understanding. So I don't know, just wanted to share that. Thank you so much. This was beautiful, very thoughtful. And this came to me as like, how are we all working on self-awareness so then we can be aware of the other?
And the awareness of the abundance that we live in, right? And why are we so stingy?
Yeah. Very deep. Thank you, sister.
Right? Yeah.
All right. Anyone else? Okay.
I wanted to say that, sorry, Charles, just came to me. Why are we so stingy? I think it partly is because we're still very fearful, and that's closes our hearts. It's the end. I mean, when we're in fear, that we can't love because and it's what you said, Kiki, that self-focused survival instinct then we become a mammal. I mean, we are still a mammal, but we become more like an animal, right? Self-preservation.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, of your presentation, there are three words that I'd like to call everybody's attention to is that freely receive, freely give. The other one is art. I mean, we have the ability to enrich ourselves with art, and also that love. Yeah, all we need is love, right? So we can transcend this paradigm of understanding love in a much more general, broader way. Yeah, very good. Thank you so much.
And amazing. I'm just going to add to what you just said, Charles. The Beatles, what? All we need is love in the 1960s?
That's right. Yeah. Well, a lot of these artists, they are inspired when they write those songs.
Mm-hmm. And it was that movement of love, right? Make love, not war. But it was still, it was on a lower level, but it was an attempt to go in that direction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then we kind of reversed a little more.
Here today we miss Tanya and we pray for her. She could enjoy that, your speech. Thank you.
She will watch it later. It's on YouTube.
Okay. So we're ready for the second part. So thank everyone for staying with us until now. We're gonna take now maybe 30 minutes break. No, 2 minutes break. And be back right there for the healing passes.